Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. It's JMA Friday, so we're going to have a look at weather for the coming month from a Japanese model. This takes us towards the end of June, actually, with this update, so through the first month of the summer already. And then we'll have a look at the charts for next week. They're looking like potentially they could get very warm later on next week, possibly even a little bit plumy with the risk of some thunder perhaps coming up through the first weekend of June. So fans of convective weather, lightning, thunder, stick around to the end of the video because there's going to be some interesting charts coming up. Now, before we get on with that, just to mention the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages at gazweathers.com. Have a browse through the widgets. If there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go and read those articles because you're going from Gaz Weathers to where the article is, where you get a revenue fee on what you're doing. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on some of the pages. They open out within the content when you watch them, they close back up again. And thanks very much for getting involved. It's all paying for the website, so thanks for doing that. Proper wet morning across the country this morning, so starting with the radar picture from the weatheroutlook.com, band of quite heavy rain coming across England and Wales. Bright colours in there, some red and pink colours showing up, so there could be some torrential bursts of rain in a few places. On the very far south coast, into the southeast of England, rain hasn't yet arrived. I'm not sure how much of this rain is actually going to get into the extreme south and southeast. But you could get some rain through the course of this afternoon, but it's certainly been very wet across many parts of northern England, Lincolnshire, Midlands. It's cleared Wales now. It was very wet there earlier and going down southwest England as well. All of this will be shifting eastwards through the course of the afternoon. I mean, you see we've got some quite heavy showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. They'll be spreading southwards and eastwards this afternoon. Now, the Southern Oscillation Index, just to very quickly talk about that, there's been a bit of a twist in the tail with this. The Southern Oscillation Index, as you know, has been very negative through much of May. If we go back, for example, to the middle part of the month, around the 16th, 17th of May, we see numbers coming out minus 30, minus 22, minus 24, minus 23, etc. When you get very negative numbers with the SOI in the Southern Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, the Southern Hemisphere, it's sort of telling you that El Nino is developing. So I've had all these stories about El Nino coming up over the next few months. And the models, of course, the long-range models, I did the update on this a couple of weeks ago. The models have been really showing the chance of some very strong El Nino conditions setting up later on in the year. Really strong, maybe even a record-breakingly strong El Nino coming up. What the models have been sort of hinting at this month, off the back of these very negative SOI numbers. But in the last couple of days, all of a sudden, the SOI has gone very positive. It's gone to plus, I should say, plus 17, both on the 28th and the 29th of May. So that's sort of starting to show that the atmosphere between Darwin and Tahiti is sort of fighting against the ocean in the Pacific. So not quite sure what's going on there, but if we get too many of those very positive numbers, then certainly any ideas of a really strong El Nino is going to be off the cards. Could easily get an El Nino, weaker El Nino, through this year, but that very idea of a very strong, even record-breaking strong El Nino could be in trouble if these Southern Oscillation Index numbers continue to look very positive. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on the Southern Oscillation Index over the next few days and weeks. Remember, the SOI, like all the other indexes, like the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, and so on, the SOI is just reflecting what the atmosphere is doing. It's not actually driving anything. These numbers aren't driving the weather or the El Nino. They are simply a reflection of what's happening with the atmosphere. And because the atmosphere has gone positive over the past couple of days, very positive, plus 17 on both the 28th and the 29th, because that's happened, it's showing that the atmosphere is now fighting against the ocean, which is trying to produce that El Nino. So we'll be keeping an eye on it, but the record-breakingly strong El Nino could be in a little bit of trouble. Now let's have a look at the Japanese model for the coming month. It's JMA Friday, of course, so we've got the 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods for the next month. This takes us up to the 29th of June. But as I say, these are broken down to week periods, so we start up with the first week period, which is the week that we're in, the 29th to the 5th of June. And what we see for this one is an unsettled pattern still. The blue colours are out to the northwest of the country. The ridge of high pressure is down to the south and to the southwest, so bringing the jet stream through the UK. It's the same pattern that we've had pretty much consistently throughout the whole of May, actually. So we end the month, really, as the month has been, with a fairly unsettled pattern, bringing those areas of low pressure in off the Atlantic Ocean. But as we go through to week 2, and this takes us from the 5th to the 12th, significant change takes place. Then we get the yellow colours building over the top of the country, indicating high pressure is building in. The low pressure with the jet stream being shoved off up to the north, so the jet stream going to the north of the country around there. And that's a much more settled, warmer, drier scenario as we're going into June. So the opening 2 or 3 days of June likely to still be unsettled. Then the high pressure builds in and really settles things down. And we've been seeing this showing up on the shorter range generic charts, of course, over the past week or so. And then interestingly, as we go through to week 3 and week 4, which takes us from the 12th to the 29th of June, it's a fairly weak signal, but we still see these yellow colours in over the country. So it's indicating that the ridge is likely to be a fairly persistent one, actually. It's likely to last for quite some time, with the jet stream probably going something like that. It's a little bit difficult to decide because the signal is so weak, but overall probably keeping the jet stream more or less to the north of the country, and that high pressure could produce quite an extended spell of drier weather. Now, of course, as this goes further and further out, the signal gets weaker. So by the time you get through to week 4, which is the final week of June, very low confidence that high pressure will still be hanging around. Would be very unusual to keep high pressure going on all that time. So this could be a transitional period. Perhaps the first week, week 3, keeps quite a bit of anticyclonic weather, and then it transitions to something more unsettled. It's too far away to have sort of good confidence in that. But certainly quite a bit of settled weather coming up through the first half of June, let's say that, if the JMA model is right. Here's 500 millibar height anomalies from the CFS V2. Again, these are broken down into weekly periods, so it's the same idea that we was looking at with the Japanese model for the coming week, which is the 28th to the 3rd of June, 28th of May to the 3rd of June, I should say. We've got the low pressure still up to the north of the country. The ridge is down to the southwest. The flow is going like that, coming through the UK, so it's a continuation of what we've had, relatively cool, relatively unsettled conditions. The second weekly period from the 4th of June to the 10th, then the ridge builds in, so it's identical to the Japanese model. That big ridge of high pressure takes over, and it sends the jet stream off to the north up there. So we're going on to the warm side of the jet under a ridge of high pressure. The second half of the first week of June into the second week of June, like to have lots of dry and warm conditions if this is right. And then the next weekly period, going from the 11th to the 17th of June, this one keeps the ridge in across the country again. So there is this idea that this could be a fairly extended period of dry and warm weather, actually, going at least up to the middle part of the month. We've got the low pressure down to the southwest of the country, and that could be starting to stage a little bit of an attack. The flow is going rather like that. So this low pressure from the southwest could be starting to stage an attack up towards the middle part of the month, but overall that high pressure is still in there and dominating up to the middle of June. And then possibly signs of a breakdown as we go through to the week to the 18th to the 24th. This is taking the ridge up towards Scandinavia then, and this low pressure down to the southwest looks like it's starting to move up towards us. So heights are weakening over the country, but ridge is sort of pushing away. That low pressure is coming up from the southwest. Now that could be bringing in thunder, of course, as this transitions, because we'd be bringing up very warm air, perhaps even hot air from the south and the southeast. So that could be a thundery breakdown through that third week of June. But overall, the signal there is, certainly for the first half of June, once we get the opening few days out of the way, for quite a lot of dry and warm weather. Looks like it could be in for a pretty warm first half to June, if this is right. Temperature anomalies stack up like this. The first weekly period from the 28th of May to the 3rd of June shows that we're still cooler than average, significantly so once again. But then we go through to the second week from the 4th to the 10th of June, and then the red colours appear across the country, so the temperature anomaly is going warmer than average there across the country. And that's first significantly warmer than average conditions for quite some time, actually. As we go through to the third weekly period, which is the 11th to the 17th of June, yes, the red colours are still there, so another very warm week coming up, going into the sort of second and just nudging into the third week of the month. And then finally we go through to the fourth weekly period, and this is a period where we're just sort of hinting at a breakdown. So from the 18th to the 24th of June, the temperature anomaly is still warmer than average, but it is lessening, and that sort of, again, probably implies that there's some sort of breakdown going on through that third week of June, possibly turning it thundery initially, and then more unsettled from the Atlantic. But certainly a couple of weeks, I think, being indicated here, of pretty dry and warm weather. Of course, they're all very experimental. These charts here are more reliable. They're shorter range models. So just have a look at what the GFS is showing for later next week. Here we are on the 4th of June. And the ridge is building up from the southwest, so it's a good representation of what the models are showing, longer range models are showing, with this high pressure sort of developing from the south and the southwest. That sticks around into the end of the week. This is Friday the 5th of June, a week away, and it's turning warmer. The air's pushing up from the south. And then we start to generate these thundery areas of low pressure down to the south. So we've got one there across Spain and Portugal, another one going up through the Bay of Biscay into France. That all starts to push northwards as we go through into Sunday the 7th of June, and by day 10, Monday the 8th, look at this, we've got a very, very thundery low sitting just to the south, just off the coast of northern France. That will be pushing up violent thunderstorms from the south. That's a classic Spanish plume type situation. Violent thunderstorms pushing up from the south. Could be very warm initially over the weekend of the 6th and 7th of June, but those thunderstorms would be turning it increasingly wet from the south. So if you like convective weather, if you like thunder, that's the sort of thing you want to be looking for, not just over the coming few days, but of course through the summer. Get those thundery areas of low pressure up from Spain and the Bay of Biscay, and normally you're in business with some nasty thunderstorms. Here's the ECMWF, and again for Thursday the high pressure is building in. So we start next week on an unsettled note. We'll discuss all this in the weekend forecast tomorrow, but we start next week on an unsettled note. Then the ridge builds in from midweek, settling things down and gradually warming things up. So this looks a pretty warm chart as we go through to Friday the 5th of June. Air coming up from the south with high pressure dominating. Could be seeing temperatures up to around 24 or 25 degrees with that into the upper 70s Fahrenheit. And that high pressure sort of sticks around actually as we go through into Saturday the 6th, again pulling up these southerly to southeasterly winds, so becoming very warm. Wouldn't necessarily rule out temperatures getting up to around 27 by next weekend on this situation. 27 is around 81 Fahrenheit. There's that thundery low developing in the Bay of Biscay, but the ECMWF does not move that up to us actually. It just keeps the high pressure dominating. So this is a better reflection, more in line with the longer range models, actually, with what the JMA and the CFS is showing, with this high pressure sort of keeping it mainly dry and settled through into the second week of the month, and these thundery low pressure systems are held at bay, at least for a time, held at bay down across Spain and the Bay of Biscay. Finally, the GEM, again, it's all very similar with the high pressure ridging in through the end of next week. Then these thundery low pressures start to try and push up from the south. The air is becoming very warm on the GEM. I think it's going over the top, but it does turn very warm with the upper air temperatures. Would lift temperatures up to the 80s Fahrenheit over next weekend if it came off. But I think it's a bit overdone, a bit over the top. But the overall message from all of these models is really the same idea, which is for temperatures to warm up later next week and into the first weekend of June. 6th, 7th of June should see a big push up in the temperatures. And whether it turns thundery, I'm not sure, but I think the chances of it happening are growing actually, at least for the south anyway. That high pressure on the east end, it's very stubborn, it keeps the thundery weather at bay. over the continent. But with the GEM and the GFS both showing the chance of thunder pushing up from the south over the first weekend of June, we've got to take it seriously. So drier, warmer, and potentially turning thundery during the first weekend of June. That's the message. We'll be looking at all of this in detail in JMA Friday in the weekend forecast tomorrow. But thanks for watching JMA Friday. Hope you found it interesting. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.